Audie Murphy, 19 years old, second lieutenant. 50 German infantry and 6 tanks advancing on his position. Murphy was alone. In the next hour, he would hold an entire company at bay while standing on a burning tank destroyer. January 26, 1945. Eastern France. The Colmar pocket. The front line ran through frozen farmland and dense forest near the village of Holtzwihr. Temperature hovered near -10 degrees Celsius. Snow covered the ground. Visibility extended to 300 meters across open fields. Company B, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division had been holding defensive positions for 2 days. The company numbered 112 men at full strength. Murphy commanded the company after the previous commander was wounded. Their defensive line occupied a tree line along the edge of a forest. Open ground extended 200 meters to their front. 2 destroyed M10 tank destroyers sat in the field, 70 meters forward of the tree line. One was still burning from an earlier engagement. At 14:30 hours, German forces attacked from the north. 6 Panzer IV medium tanks and approximately 250 infantry from the 19th Army. The Germans advanced in a coordinated assault, tanks leading, infantry following in loose formation. Murphy's forward observation post reported enemy movement at 14:32 hours. He moved to the company command post and assessed the situation. His company occupied good defensive terrain but lacked anti-tank capability. The 2 M10 tank destroyers that could have engaged the Panzers were already destroyed. The German tanks advanced to within 100 meters. Their 75mm main guns began firing high explosive rounds into the tree line. Machine gun fire from the tanks raked the American positions. Infantry casualties mounted rapidly. Murphy called for artillery support. The 105th Field Artillery Battalion responded. Fire mission approved. Forward observer radioed coordinates. First rounds would arrive in 4 minutes. The German infantry closed to within 50 meters of the tree line. Murphy's company began taking sustained, small arms fire from multiple directions. The tactical situation deteriorated. German forces threatened to overrun the position. Murphy ordered his company to withdraw to secondary positions 200 meters behind the tree line. This would prevent the company from being destroyed, but would concede the forward positions. The withdrawal began at 14:40 hours. Murphy remained at the company command post with his forward observer. He continued calling artillery adjustments as the German advance continued. The observer stayed with him, radioing coordinates to the artillery battalion. 2 German tanks moved past the destroyed M10 tank destroyers. They advanced to within 70 meters of Murphy's position. Machine gun fire from the lead panzer struck trees around the command post. The situation required immediate decision. Murphy moved forward alone. He ran 30 meters under direct fire to the burning M10 tank destroyer. The vehicle had been hit earlier in the day and was still smoldering. Flames came from the engine compartment. The crew had abandoned it 6 hours earlier. Murphy climbed onto the tank destroyer. The M10 mounted a 3-inch anti-aircraft gun as its main armament, but that weapon was disabled. What remained functional was the Browning M250 caliber heavy machine gun mounted on the ring turret. Ammunition boxes held approximately 750 rounds. He positioned himself behind the 50 caliber machine gun. The weapon weighed 84 pounds. Belt-fed, air-cooled. Effective range 800 meters. Rate of fire 450 to 600 rounds per minute. Murphy had used the weapon extensively during previous combat. The lead German panzer was 60 meters away. Infantry advanced behind it in squad formations. Murphy opened fire at 14:43 hours. The 50 caliber machine gun fired in controlled bursts. Murphy targeted the German infantry first. At 60 meters range, the 50 caliber rounds were devastating against unarmored personnel. The first burst dropped 3 German soldiers. The second burst wounded 4 more. German infantry immediately identified the threat. Multiple squads directed fire at the burning tank destroyer. Rifle fire from Mauser K-98s and machine gun fire from MG-42s concentrated on Murphy's position. Rounds struck the tank destroyer hull. Tracer fire passed within inches of his position. Murphy continued firing. He swept the machine gun left to right, engaging German infantry across a 120-degree arc. His fire forced the Germans to seek cover. The advance slowed. Infantry went to ground behind snow berms and in shallow depressions. The forward observer remained in the tree line, 70 meters behind Murphy. He continued radioing artillery coordinates. Murphy shouted corrections over the noise of the 50 caliber machine gun. The artillery rounds began landing at 14:46 hours, impacting 200 meters north of Murphy's position. German tank commanders assessed the threat: 1 M10 tank destroyer, 1 American soldier, 1 machine gun. The tactical decision was clear. The lead panzer rotated its turret toward Murphy's position. The 75mm main gun elevated. Range 60 meters. The tank could not miss. Murphy saw the turret rotation. He had perhaps 5 seconds before the tank fired. He continued engaging infantry targets. 20 rounds remained in the current belt. He fired the belt empty into a German squad attempting to flank from the east. The Panzer fired. The 75mm high explosive round struck the ground 3 meters short of the tank destroyer. The explosion showered Murphy with frozen dirt and snow. Shrapnel struck the tank destroyer hull. Murphy was not hit. He reloaded the 50 caliber machine gun. New belt, 250 rounds. The reload took 8 seconds under fire. He resumed firing immediately. The German infantry were now within 40 meters. Without Murphy's fire, they would have reached the tree line where his company had withdrawn. The German tanks advanced. 2 panzers moved to flank positions, attempting to get clear shots at the tank destroyer. Murphy engaged the infantry supporting the flanking tanks. He fired 30-round bursts, shifted aim, fired again. The precision came from hundreds of hours of training and 3 years of combat experience across North Africa, Sicily, Italy, and France. A second German tank fired. The round struck 10 meters to Murphy's left. The explosion wounded him with shrapnel to the right leg. Blood soaked through his uniform trousers. He did not leave the machine gun. The forward observer reported German casualties mounting. Artillery continued landing north of the position. Murphy's machine gun fire prevented infantry from closing. The German advance stalled at 14:50 hours, 7 minutes after Murphy had climbed onto the burning tank destroyer. But German forces numbered over 200 soldiers. Murphy was one man with 1 machine gun and finite ammunition. The tactical mathematics were clear. Eventually, ammunition would run out or German fire would kill him. He understood this. He stayed. The tank destroyer fire intensified. Smoke from the engine compartment increased. Flames spread to the crew compartment directly below Murphy's position. The heat became severe. The metal under his feet was hot enough to burn through boot soles. He shifted position constantly to avoid direct contact with the hottest sections. German soldiers attempted another advance at 14:53 hours. Murphy expended 150 rounds, stopping them. Ammunition remaining, approximately 300 rounds. The calculation was simple. At current rate of fire, he had perhaps 6 more minutes before running dry. The forward observer called for danger close artillery. This meant rounds landing within 600 meters of friendly positions. Murphy was well within that radius. The risk was acceptable. Murphy shouted coordinates. The observer radioed them. Artillery adjusted fire. Shells began landing at 150 meters, then 100 meters. Murphy continued calling adjustments while firing the machine gun. The coordination required him to split attention between engaging targets and directing artillery, all while under direct fire from multiple German positions. A third tank fired at 14:55 hours. This round struck the tank destroyer directly. It impacted the front glacis plate 12 inches below Murphy's position. The explosion was catastrophic. The entire vehicle shuddered. More flames erupted from the engine compartment. Smoke poured from every opening. Standard procedure dictated immediate evacuation. The tank destroyer was effectively on fire. One more direct hit would likely detonate remaining ammunition or fuel stores. Murphy would be killed instantly. He remained at the machine gun. By 14:57 hours, Murphy had been engaging German forces for 14 minutes while standing on a burning vehicle taking direct fire from tanks and infantry. The ammunition supply was nearly exhausted. 200 rounds remained. Then the German assault broke. Artillery fire and Murphy's sustained machine gun fire created casualties the German commander deemed unacceptable. At 14:58 hours, German forces began withdrawing. Infantry fell back first, maintaining suppressive fire. Tanks covered the withdrawal, reversing while continuing to engage. Murphy fired his remaining ammunition into the retreating force. The last belt ran empty at 1500 hours exactly. Total ammunition expended approximately 750 rounds in 17 minutes. The 50 caliber machine gun barrel was glowing red from sustained fire. Only then did Murphy climb down from the tank destroyer. He dropped to the ground and moved back toward the tree line. His right leg was wounded and bleeding. He had been standing on a burning vehicle for 17 minutes. The soles of his boots were partially melted. His hands were burned from handling hot metal. He reached the tree line at 15:03 hours. The forward observer helped him to the company aid station. The company medic treated the leg wound. Shrapnel removed, wound cleaned, bandage applied. Murphy refused evacuation. He remained with his company. The battlefield assessment came later that afternoon. German casualties were estimated at 50 killed and wounded. Murphy's action prevented the German force from overrunning Company B's position. Had the Germans succeeded, they would have broken through the defensive line. The entire battalion flank would have been exposed. All 112 men of Company B survived the engagement because one lieutenant held the line for 17 minutes. Medical personnel noted that without Murphy's action, casualties would likely have exceeded 50% of the company's strength. Murphy continued commanding Company B. He remained in combat until the war ended 3 months later. The leg wound healed without complications. He refused evacuation 5 more times during subsequent engagements. June 26, 1945. The Colmar pocket campaign had ended 4 months earlier. The European war was over. The Army began processing Medal of Honor recommendations. Murphy's company commander had submitted the recommendation on February 1, 1945, 6 days after the action. The recommendation was supported by sworn statements from the forward observer, the company first sergeant, and 8 other soldiers who had witnessed the action from the tree line. The approval process moved through channels. Battalion commander approved. Regimental commander approved. Division commander approved. Lieutenant General Alexander Patch, 7th Army commander, approved. General Jacob Devers, 6th Army Group commander, approved. The recommendation reached Washington in April 1945. The Army Board of Medal Review evaluated the action. They reviewed witness statements after action reports, German casualty documentation, and tactical situation maps. The board unanimously recommended approval, June 26, 1945. The Pentagon. Major General Edward Brooks presented the Medal of Honor to First Lieutenant Audie Murphy. Murphy was 20 years old. He had been in the Army for 3 years and 3 months. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty on 26th of January, 1945, near Holtzwihr, France." Second Lieutenant Murphy commanded Company B, which was attacked by 6 tanks and waves of infantry. Second Lieutenant Murphy ordered his men to withdraw to prepared positions in a woods while he remained forward at his command post and continued to give fire directions to the artillery by telephone. Behind him to his right, one of our tank destroyers received a direct hit and began to burn. Its crew withdrew to the woods. Second Lieutenant Murphy continued to direct artillery fire, which killed large numbers of the advancing enemy infantry. With the enemy tanks abreast of his position, Second Lieutenant Murphy climbed on the burning tank destroyer, which was in danger of blowing up at any moment, and employed its 50 caliber machine gun against the enemy. He was alone and exposed to German fire from three sides, but his deadly fire killed dozens of Germans and caused their infantry attack to waver. The enemy tanks, unable to lay their guns on him at such close range, withdrew to a distance and began shelling his position. His directing of artillery fire wiped out many of the enemy. He received a leg wound but ignored it and continued the single-handed fight until his ammunition was exhausted. He then made his way to his company, refused medical attention, and organized the company in a counterattack, which forced the Germans to withdraw. His directing of artillery fire wiped out many of the enemy. Second Lieutenant Murphy's indomitable courage and his refusal to give an inch of ground saved his company from possible encirclement and destruction, and enabled it to hold the woods, which had been the enemy's objective. Murphy was born June 20, 1925, in Kingston, Texas. Fifth of 12 children. Family sharecroppers. Father abandoned the family when Murphy was 12. Mother died when he was 16. Murphy left school after 5th grade to work and help support his siblings. He enlisted in the Army June 30, 1942, 3 weeks after his 17th birthday. He was 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighed 112 pounds. The Marines rejected him for being too small. The paratroopers rejected him for the same reason. The infantry accepted him. He landed in Sicily in July 1943, fought through the Italian campaign, landed in southern France in August 1944, fought through the Vosges Mountains and Colmar Pocket. By January 1945, he had earned every valor decoration the Army could award below the Medal of Honor: 2 Silver Stars, 3 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts, the Distinguished Service Cross. The action at Holtzwihr on January 26 was not his first extraordinary combat action. It was simply the one that met the threshold for the Medal of Honor. After the war, Murphy became an actor in Hollywood. He starred in 44 films, including To Hell and Back, the autobiography of his war service. He suffered from what would later be recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder. He became an advocate for veterans' mental health treatment decades before it was widely accepted. Murphy died May 28, 1971. Plane crash in Virginia. He was 45 years old. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. His grave is the second most visited at Arlington after President Kennedy's. More than 3.5 million people visit his grave each year. His Medal of Honor is displayed at the National Museum of the United States Army at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, on loan from his family. The Audie Murphy American Cotton Museum in Greenville, Texas, displays his other decorations, which include 33 awards and medals, making him the most decorated American soldier of World War II. The 50 caliber machine gun he used at Holtzwihr was recovered after the battle. The weapon showed evidence of sustained fire, the barrel heat damaged from continuous use. It is preserved at the 3rd Infantry Division Museum at Fort Stewart, Georgia. 7 men witnessed Murphy's action from the tree line 70 meters away. All 7 survived the war. All 7 testified that without Murphy's action, Company B would have been overrun. All 7 attended his funeral in 1971. The citation calls it conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty. The Forward Observer called it 17 minutes that saved 112 men. The mathematics were simple. 1 lieutenant with 1 machine gun held off 50 infantry and 6 tanks for 17 minutes while standing on a burning vehicle. That is what the Medal of Honor measures. Subscribe to the channel. There are more than 3,500 Medal of Honor recipients. Everyone has a story like this. This is just one